Okay, so in our last passage, Beowulf's arrival, Beowulf has arrived in Denmark. He's done a good deal of flighting, bragging about what he's done in the past and how he's going to fight Grendel and all of this. The Danes have been fighting Grendel or dealing with Grendel for 12 years, so not everybody is too impressed with the new guy showing up, suddenly thinking he can solve the problem that they haven't been able to solve. And one of these guys is Unferth. And Unferth is going to challenge Beowulf's flight. And that's part of flighting. Sometimes warriors would smack talk each other, and you see this even in modern sports where athletes will smack talk each other, that sort of thing. It's a common trait of humans to sort of banter back and forth, sometimes in joking and sometimes not in joking. In this case, Unferth is not impressed, but he's certainly got his own baggage as well. So he is going to speak up after Beowulf's little flighting speech and accuse Beowulf of not being as great as Beowulf is portraying himself to be. This could end up in a number of different sort of scenarios. Most often, it seemed that the warriors just sort of retorted, back-talked each other, smack-talked each other, and it would resolve. Sometimes they would challenge each other to feats of strength or contests of strength. Occasionally, apparently, it would end up in a duel to the death. But the leaders tried to discourage that because they couldn't afford to lose warriors bad-mouthing each other and have warriors die over it. Although sometimes that was a problem in history. So, we go with Unferth. Let's read. From where he crouched at the king's feet, Unferth, a son of Eclof's, spoke contrary words. Beowulf's coming, his sea braving, made him sick with envy. Are you the Beowulf who took on Breca in a swimming match on the Whale Road, risking the water just to prove you could win? It was sheer vanity that made you venture out on the main deep, and no matter who tried, friend or foe, to deflect the pair of you, neither would back down. This sea test obsessed you both. You waded in, embracing the water, taking its measure, mastering currents, riding the swell. The ocean swayed. Winter went wild in the waves, but you vied for 7 nights, and then he outswam you, came ashore the stronger contender. And so Breca made good his flight upon you, and was proved right. No matter, therefore, how you may have fared in every bout and battle until now. This time you will be worsted. No one has ever outlasted an entire night against Grendel. How does Unferth challenge Beowulf's flight? Unferth brings up something of Beowulf's past. They hear about each other, they hear stories, and Unferth has heard that Beowulf lost this swimming match. May seem minor, but it's a pretty serious challenge, and Beowulf has to defend it. He has to defend himself against this accusation and preserve his dignity and his honor. So now Beowulf's going to reply, and you should be able to answer the question at this point. Beowulf's going to reply. Beowulf, Ecgtheow's son, replied, Well, friend Unferth, you've had your say about Breca and me, but it was mostly the mead that was doing the talking. The truth is this. When the going was heavy in those high waves, I was the strongest swimmer of all. We had been children together and grew up daring ourselves to outdo each other, boasting and urging each other to risk our lives on the sea. And so it turned out. Each of us swam holding a sword, a naked, fire-forged blade for protection against the whale beasts. But Breca could never move out farther or faster from me than I could manage to move from him. Shoulder to shoulder we struggled on for 5 nights, until the long flow and pitch of the waves, the perishing cold, night falling, and winds from the north drove us apart. The deep water boiled up, and its wallowing sent the sea beasts wild. My armor helped me to hold out. My hard ring chainmail, hand-forged and linked, A fine, close-fitting filigree of gold kept me safe when some ocean creature pulled me to the bottom, pinion fast and swathed in its grip. Weird granted one final chance. My sword plunged, and the ordeal was over. Through my own hands, the fury of battle had finished off that sea beast. Then, time and again, foul things attacked me, lurking and stalking, but I lashed out, gave as good as I got with my sword. My flesh was not for feasting on. There would be no monsters gnawing and glowing over their banquet at the bottom of the sea. Instead, in the morning, mangled and sleeping the sleep of the sword, they slopped and floated like the ocean's foam. From now on, sailors would be safer. The deep-sea raids were over for good. However it occurred, my sword had killed 9 sea beasts, sea terrors. Such night dangers and hard ordeals I have never heard of, nor a man more desolate in the surging waves. But, worn out as I was, I survived, came through with my life. The ocean lifted me and laid me ashore. I landed safe on the coast of Finland. The swimming match, one of the things I want you to realize, Beowulf really is almost superheroic, like our modern incarnations of Thor or Superman or something like that. Many of the kings mentioned, Hrothgar and the Scottish, Geatish king, were real kings in history. Beowulf, there's no record of anybody by that name. Maybe a conglomeration of warriors elevated to this superheroic status. The swimming match lasted 7 days. Brecca wins the swimming match. He does win the swimming match. But Beowulf also points out that the reason Brecca won the swimming match was because he was busy battling sea beasts, and he killed 9 sea beasts and made the ocean safer for sailors. So he takes the swimming match and he raises this to, well, of course, a swimming match isn't a big deal. I was busy saving people's lives in the future, for the future. Now, lines 565 and 566, we have this metaphor, sleeping the sleep of the sword. What does that mean? Sleeping the sleep of the sword. It's really almost a kenning, except it's not a compound word, but it is a compound phrase. It almost functions as one word. Sleeping the sleep of the sword. Metaphor for death. They had been killed by the sword, so now the sleep of death was upon them. Be sure you're answering using complete sentences in your own words on this. And of course, what did he achieve during the swimming match? Killing sea beasts. Beowulf's not done in his response to Unferth. The speech continues on, except now he turns to Unferth. He's heard of Unferth as well, as a warrior, and Unferth's been involved in some questionable behaviors, and he also points out he's there because of the failure of the Danish warriors. They failed to do their job as warriors, as protectors of the kingdom. So now he has to come and take care of their business. So he responds, and really in this flight smacks down Unferth pretty hard. So let's read. Now I cannot recall any fight you entered, Unferth, that bears comparison. I don't boast when I say that neither you nor Brecca were ever much celebrated for swordsmanship or for facing danger in the field of battle. You killed your own kith and kin. So for all your cleverness and quick tongue, you will suffer the damnation in the depths of hell. The fact is, Unferth, if you were truly as keen and courageous as you claim to be, Grendel would never have gotten away with such unchecked atrocity, attacks on your king, havoc in Heorot, and horrors everywhere. But he knows he need never be in dread of your blade, making mizzle of his blood, or of vengeance arriving ever from this quarter. But he will find me different. I will show him how Geat's shaped to kill in the heat of battle. Then whoever wants to may go bravely to mead in the morning light. Then it was like in old times in that echoing mead hall. So the speeches ended, and they're having a celebration of Beowulf's arrival. Proud talk, and the people happy, long and loud and excited, until soon enough Halfdane's heir had to be away to his night's rest. The company stood as the two leaders took leave of each other. Hrothgar wished Beowulf health and good weird, named him hall warden. Hrothgar departed then with his mead guard. So the Danes, most of the Danes are leaving. There's a few there as witnesses to what happens, but most of them are leaving. So the Danes, or the Geats, have the hall to themselves to carry out this battle when it occurs. They also have had this party, this celebration, to recreate the conditions that caused Grendel to show up in the first place. Beowulf doesn't want to wait till Grendel decides to show up. He wants to make sure Grendel knows he's there. There's people there. Then down the brave Beowulf lay with his bolster, his pillow, under his head, and his whole company of sea rovers at rest beside him. None of them, his fellow warriors, expected to ever see his homeland again or get back to his native place and the people who reared him. Many of Beowulf's men are willing to die for this. Glory is more important than life, and so they're going to fight beside the man that they have pledged themselves to. Beowulf accuses Unferth of murder of his kith and kin, close friends and family. In particular, Unferth was out hunting with his brother, his older brother, who was the inheritor of all his father's titles and wealth. And his brother died a somewhat mysterious death that was an accident. So there is suspicion or belief that Unferth killed his brother. And so that colors the view of Unferth. And then, of course, Unferth, he tells him, if you had been doing your job as a warrior, if the Danish warriors had done their job, I wouldn't be here. And the fact that you are alive means that you haven't taken on this monster. You've been cowardly. So that's that passage.